Hey guys, it's Rush. BattleOfGlory.com lets you earn real-life money with their World of Tanks tournaments. If you'd like the chance to earn prizes upwards of €250 by playing World of Tanks, sign up with the referral link down in the description. Hey guys, it's Rush. Today we're going to be doing a map overview of Serene Coast. Going to be looking at it from the south perspective first, then we'll head over to the northern perspective. So on Serene Coast, I typically, what I'll do is I will try to play the one line. Like, this is what I'll do the majority of the time, but what you want to do before you really get into, before you commit to C1, which is where the medium tank fight typically happens, you want to look at the enemy team lineup. So this is the route you take to get to C1. Obviously, it's a lot safer, but you only want to go here if the enemy team has... you want to go here if you have a fair fight or an advantage in some way, because a lot of the times what will happen is E5s and 2 and 5Bs and things will come over here. Same with the WZ11114s and whatnot. And if the enemy has those tanks and you don't think you can beat them, it's very difficult to run away from C1. So C1 is valuable. This is where the medium tank fight typically happens, but you need to look at the enemy team lineup before you come here, because you don't want to go here alone and realize that they have like 4 heavies who are coming to this side. So once you've made that decision and you've decided to go up to C1, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to poke like so. This is typically what will work. You have to do it carefully. Like, some people will do it up here and that'll screw with their gun depression. You want to drive on this line right here, and you only want to show, your turret as you do this, because what will happen is people will see you, they'll see like light, medium tank or whatever, and they'll just focus you down. So typically you just go here, get an early shot off, etc., and you don't want to expose yourself here for too long, because already stuff will start to click you. So it's pretty basic. Once you're fighting on C1, typically you don't want to be from the southern spawn anyways. You don't want to be playing up here, because what will happen, unless you have some sort of epic gun depression. You see, I don't have the gun depression to hit tanks who would be in this area. So if you're up top like this, you actually have to come all the way over to get some sort of shot, and that never works. So this line right here is really important. Now let's pretend you're in a Chinese medium or something and the gun depression, it doesn't work at all. You can use this slope right here to give yourself a bit more. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll just come a bit wider. You can see it gives me way more gun depression as opposed to if I were, like so. So in a Chinese medium, that can sometimes make the difference between able to getting shots. Like, it might allow you to get shots in these people. So you just ride this thing to give you gun depression, and that's basically it. The rest of it's just brawling. What some people will do is they will come up to this area. Now, this is okay. What I found is when I'm here, you get focused down really, really hard. And then when you try to push around, like, this is what people try to do, is they will try to come up like so. And then again, you can use this slant to give you gun depression while you're here. But you have to be careful about, camping TDs in this area and this area, because a lot of the times when you poke, TDs will have shots in you, right? So if you're playing this area to try to get shots in people, you need to make sure that either they don't have TDs, or that all of the enemy team is spotted and you know where everyone is, because there's generally some sort of camper over there. And you also have to watch for arty. What I have found is that it's very difficult to actually play here because of the way the land is. There's very little cover. So if you shoot, like if I was brawling someone right here and I shot and I had a normal tank, what would happen is he would just push into me and we'd be trading hit points effectively. And you don't want to do that with your hit points, because they're yours, they're valuable. So trading hit points with people, it happens when you play this area and it's not very bright. So typically what I'll try to do is I'll let my teammates deal with this, because when they try to push it, when the enemy tries to push it, they also get wrecked by TDs. But I'll let the teammates deal with that, and I'll just sort of play this area, and I'll try to poke on people who are reloading and things like that, because mediums don't have the armor to really brawl up here. So what I'll do is I'll get early shots, and then I'll just sort of watch what happens, and I'll play this general area. This line is preferable because of the way the gun depression works, but that's the gist of C1. It's like, this is all you can do. Once you sort of start falling back to here, they're above you. So this ridge is really important. You don't want to give it up. So if you give it up, it's generally you've lost this side, unless you have a ton of TDs who can actually hit their shots. So that ridge is important. If you find yourself way down here and the enemy's above you, it's like you're either going to die or you're going to try to run away, and you might take a couple hits. So typically you'll try to run away, and sometimes the best route to do that is going to be like so, because it keeps you a bit safer. But there's no really great way to run away, because you see, when you run away like this, TDs back here will have shots on you. So it's like, if the enemy team is on the C1 ridge and you decide you have to leave it, you're basically dead unless you can time it perfectly and you have a fast tank. But the way this works is you want to only go here if you think you can win, because obviously driving up this open line, if they're on top of it, you know, they're just going to hit you the whole way as you do it. So you need to make the decision beforehand. You need to understand if you're going to win this side or not, because this type of running away play doesn't work because everyone just sits on that ridge and shoots you like they would have shots right now. So this is important. Let's pretend you would, for whatever reason, C1 isn't going to work. So either you've decided not to go to C1 or you've managed to run away somehow. Typically, TDs will be sitting up right here. Now, I don't really like that rock because it opens you up to A4, right? So what I'll typically do is, there's a boost you can do up here, but I think it's sort of stupid. What I'll do is I'll sit right here. This is a lot better because what it does is it lets you immediately get to cover. There's a very safe exit route from here, and obviously there's a bush. So if your team is going to lose C1, come to G2, and what you can do is you can just sort of shoot at the mediums who will typically just sort of drive into the open to try to kill your teammates, because that's how the average player plays. So this position is a lot better than the alternatives. This is just where I'll go. So for whatever reason, if you decide not to go to C1 and you don't see any other opportunities on the map, or if you've run away from C1 and somehow luckily survived that occurrence, what you want to do is come to here, and then the second they start pushing down this line, so typically if these people have left the cover of these ridges and are starting to push down, you want to leave because they're going to spot you, especially in tier 10 games. So it's like you put a couple shots out into these people as they kill your teammates who are going to be dying down in this bowl right here, and then you start to leave because otherwise you're going to get lit. So you put those shots out, then you run away, because when they start pushing into you, you know, in any sort of medium tank, you're not going to win when there's 4 tanks in front of you. So what I'll do is I'll go to, like, let's pretend my running away strategy is like go to C1, go to G2, and then from there you sort of fight around in your base. Now what you can do is, if you're fast enough and if you time it well, you can always run away to like this area right here, because generally you'll have TDs in this area and they're going to die. So you want to punish the enemy for killing them. So what you can do is you can just sort of sit on these tracks right here and put shots into anyone who's trying to like circle your TDs or whatever. That can work. Obviously it's in the open, so it's one of those plays where you get 1 or 2 shots and then you leave, but you can sometimes retreat to a K3-ish, the track area, get a couple shots, and then I'll typically just try to make my final stand somewhere in the base here, because typically if you're in the base at this point and you're defending against a one-line push, this is going to be where your last stand is going to have to happen, because it's like, you know, you could try to play the 9-line, but the problem is the cap circle needs to be guarded, right? So if they get put 3 on cap and you're not here and you're playing the 9-line trying to help your heavies who are taking forever, it doesn't work very well. So that's like the general strategy to playing the C1 if you're playing it defensively. Now for pushing, we can go take a look at that. Alright, so if you're in C1 and you have won the side, there's typically 2 ways to push. Now, the way most people push isn't very bright. What they'll do is they will do something akin to this, and they will go over this hump here, and they don't consider the possibilities when they do this. So when you push, you're generally going to expose yourself to someone, but when you push like this, you open yourselves up to camping TDs in their base, like TDs in these buildings, and then whoever's playing this corner, because normally people will play this corner. So this is the absolute worst way to push. There's 2 options that I consider to be relatively decent. Now, sometimes in a game you'll find that there's no enemies right here. Maybe they've run away, maybe your team has killed them, but for whatever reason, it's safe to expose yourself to this angle. The best way to push in that case is just to pick up speed, not like I am now, but you pick up speed and then rush right here, because it minimizes your exposure to camping TDs in base, and this is typically the safest way to do that. It's like you don't go over this huge hump, you take it as wide as possible and stay as low as you can, and then you push up to this rock or whatever. But the way I'll typically do it, because, you know, you're going to take some hits as you push, because normally there's some guy who's camping here, is I will try to be the first to be there, because a lot of the times your teammates, how do I say it, they'll just camp. So if there's enemies here just playing this corner, your teammates will just sort of sit here and just wait for them to poke. So a lot of the times you'll have teammates suppressing the people at B3. So what you want to do is you want to come up something like this, and then you want to pick up speed, of course, so you're going like 60 or whatever, and typically you'll get lit right here, but that's not enough time for most people to react. So you can actually get low really, really quickly. All it does is exposes you to these TDs, and really, unless they know you're coming, unless you're spotted before you push down this area, you're generally not going to get shots. And they might try to snapshot you, but really. So that's what I found. And then once you've sort of gotten up to this rock, your teammates will sort of follow, and you can continue to push around this corner. Obviously, you just sort of clear angles as you get the chance, because people will be here. They might be, I don't know, I've seen some low tier players play up top there. That doesn't work, but typically they'll play in this area, and then anyone who's here will get shot by the camping TDs, and you just sort of poke your way around this and try to clear out whoever's behind this rock. And it's very difficult if there's people here, but sometimes you just sort of have to make it work. I've seen teammates come around like this. When you're in this point of time and there's enemies like camped up behind this rock, your team has to sort of create some sort of coordinated rush. That's the only way you're going to be able to kill these people. And then you do the same for these guys. But typically it's pretty easy. Like that's what normally happens when you're pushing down the A-B line. There'll be some sort of coordination. Now, what I'll do when I'm in the base, this is a bit different, because a lot of people will try to just like rush across the open fields, but you have to remember that there's going to be an Artie in here who's going to be focusing you down, because Artie will be scared for his life, right? So he'll be focusing at the biggest threat. What I have found is the best way to do it is to try to get up to this rock, because that lets you deal with the TDs who are going to be on this corner. Maybe some TDs are going to be over here, etc., etc. So I will do something like this. It's a bit safer, and you just sort of jump over these tracks, and then you're able to make a beeline to the rocks, because that's going to let you get closer to Artie, closer to the TDs, and hopefully they won't hit you for 750 alpha. So this is the safer route, right? You don't want to just drive over these tracks and hope for the best. You want to take some sort of planned route to try to deal with the fact that there's going to be a TD here, maybe one here, and there's generally always Artie in this corner. So it's like you just sort of play this corner, and you deal with whoever's in this area. You spot them for your teammates, who will invariably be playing over here, because that's how teammates play, and you just sort of deal with the situation as it progresses, and you go for shots. And that's pretty much it. I mean, at this point in time, you'd be in their base, so I guess the T-34-3's in there, but at this point in time, you're in their base, and you can do a lot of positions. Like, let's pretend you've managed to push all the way into their base. You can play up at where I am now, C9. That'll let you get rear shots on the heavies. This is really strong, because what it does is, like, if you take this position and you're in the situation where your team needs to cap out, let's pretend you have one on cap, he's like 100 HP and you have 1,000 or whatever, this position will prevent heavies from crossing, right? Because what are they going to do? Cross an open bridge while you're sitting here? And it doesn't work. And it's the same thing if they were to try to cross this. So if you come to this position, it's very effective for screening when your team is trying to cap. Obviously, there's two other ways for people to get on cap, but you can definitely control the 9-0 just by playing right here. And that's typically what I've found. So let's go look at it from the northern spawn. So typically, if you're going to play C1, like the one line from the northern spawn, what I'll typically do is I will head up to C1 again, and it's much of the same thinking. It's like you want to make sure you can win that, and also you need to obviously take into account artillery, because if they have 3 Artie and you're playing C1, good luck, But you're going to want to take into account if you can win it or not. It's a bit easier to run away, so you have a bit more window. You can make mistakes when playing C1 in the sense that you can make bad predictions, but what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pop up like this. Don't knock over all these trees. They slow, like, not because it gives your position away, but because they slow you down. But what you can do is I've been playing lumberjack. What you do is you pop up to this bush right here, and that'll let you spot all the way down the one line. And if you're in some sort of autoload or a light tank, you can put shots into people. Now, the mistake that a lot of players will make, like especially I've noticed blue players do this a lot with XVM, is they will like try to dump out their entire clip onto people who come. It's like you can't do that, because the second you shoot from this bush, you're gonna get spotted. You have to overhang your entire tank to shoot here, and it's like for you to dump 5 shells into people is way too much. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna put 2 shots into people. You can 2 to 3 at most. You don't want to expose yourself, because people will stop to shoot at you, and if you're in any sort of lightly armored tank, that's not good. So you put 2 or 3 shots into people, you figure out who's going to the one line, and then you can make some sort of educated decision on whether you want to stay or not, and you can reload and things like that. So once that decision is made, let's pretend you've decided to run away, which I've done in the past. A lot of people will run away to this rock here. Now, that's a mistake. This rock sucks to defend from, because what you're doing is you're going to be fighting people who are hull down. So when you're fighting mediums who are going to be hull down on this ridge, that doesn't work. It's very similar to this rock here. It doesn't work. So what I'll do when I'm running away is I will just run away all the way to A8, where you can see the T-34-3 is spotted, because every single position all the way from here, like from C1 to here, doesn't work. I've tried it, trust me. So what I'll do is I will pop up to A8, and this is where you sort of make your last stand. There isn't a lot of opportunities to make multiple, you know, running away shots on people. So what I'll do is I'll just pop right here, and the way you do it is you tilt your tank on this ridge, so to give yourself gun depression, and you can just sort of sit like this. You can try to use the bushes, like I'm trying to use this tree here for camo and whatnot. So this position is really good if you've decided you're going to lose C1, and you can just sort of fight around in there and make it work for you, and then you can also deal with other locations. But that bull works really well. You just have to make sure you don't get team killed by artillery. So because most arty players don't they're not too bright in my opinion, but whatever. That's going to be cut out of the video. Let's pretend you're in a position where you've decided you're going to win C1. What you're going to want to do is very similar to the other side. You want to play as wide as you possibly can, because, you know, poking over this ridge when you have, even with patents and things like that, it just doesn't work because, you know, low gun depression. So I have found that you want to play as close to this edge as you possibly can. That will sort of open you up to TDs, so you do need to keep that in mind. But typically what I'll do if I'm in like a Chinese medium or something is I will play something like this, because what it does, you can see you're open to TDs, you're open to this bush here, right, the G2 bush, and from here sometimes TDs will shoot at you. But what you want to do from this location is you can just put quick shots into people, and this is best because obviously this you can use this slant to give yourself gun depression. So that's what you want to do. And then you can do the other, like let's pretend sometimes people will run away into this corner right here. So you can do the opposite to shoot at people who are down in this sort of pocket. So what I'll do is I will give myself gun depression, and I'll try to put shots into these people, keeping in mind that if you go too far, yeah, you will be exposing yourself to these TDs. So if you want to shoot people here, use this slant right here. And then if you want to shoot people on the other side, go to the wider area of those rocks, and that's pretty much it. So once you've killed everyone at D1, C1, like once you've won this side, what you're going to want to do is, like, obviously you look at your map, you say, do I have to go back to base? And then if you have to go back to base, you play A8, or you can play this location right here that I showed. What you want to do if you're pushing this is you want to push it really, really quickly, because you don't want to get lit as you push down this road. It's terrible to run away down. It's also terrible to push. So the big things that you have to worry about are G2, and you also have to worry about these guys right here, the TDs who will be camping. So what I'll try to do is I'll back up. I'll pick up as much speed as I can. I will make sure the one line's clear. I don't want anyone spotting me in any of these ridges. That's like sometimes players will camp right here and they'll light you, right? So you need to push. You want to get as low as you can, as quickly as you can. That's going to keep you safe from these TDs here. And then you can sort of push up in such a way that, you know, you deal with who you have to deal with. So sometimes you'll deal with people here, sometimes you'll deal with people here, and it's very difficult to play, but you just sort of want to get hulled down behind. I can show you. This ridge right here is really nice to get hulled down behind. So you can just pop up here, and when you're in this location, you're spotting for all your teammates who are probably camping behind you, right? Because aggressive players get camping teammates. But what you're going to want to do is you just try to spot whoever's in these bushes, and sometimes you can blind fire it. I've blind fired a Scorpion there before, and then you just try to light for whoever you can, and you just try to push down this side. So once you've cleared out like G2 and then these TDs positions, it's very similar to the route that you would take if you're running away to defend the base. So what I'll do is I will push something like this. I'm assuming these TDs are dead, by the way. You push up like this. Now you can use this bush for cover, but you'll notice that there's also a lot of land that's giving you cover and making it hard for people to spot you and hard for people to shoot you. So sometimes there's going to be people, especially in low tiers, who just camp there. I don't see that in high tiers much, but as you push around, you can kill arty, camping TDs and stuff like that. And then you get up to this location right here. Now this is difficult to play because what will happen is TDs will sit right up here, and it's like that's hard to deal with. So ideally you can clear out this corner because you don't want camping TDs here, and then you don't push through this road, right? Because camping TDs. So what I'll do is I'll clear this area out, and then I'll turn around because I don't want to get wrecked by whoever's camping at K4. And so what you can do is you can just sort of go and play these tracks and try to spot for your teammate. Now you don't want to drive like I did. It's better to drive, I can show you. It's a lot better to drive like this because obviously that's going to keep you safe from the camping TDs. So you drive like so, you're not going to get lit, and then you'll have picked up speed, so you'll know that there's no one behind this rock here because you just cleared it out. And then you can sort of play these tracks and you can spot for your teammates. Or it's very difficult for your teammates to get shots, but if they know who's there, they can sort of you want to sort of let them lead the charge, because pushing into camping TD on this corner doesn't work. Same thing, there's sometimes camping TDs here and here, so it's important to figure out where they are. Now, sometimes what I'll do, instead of like pushing up over this area, you can just do something like this. That's a bit better, because then you can sort of flex to kill the 9 line. Obviously, if you just poke up here, you can get shots, and you can continue this push. You can go fight the camping TDs who are over here. There's a lot more options when pushing into the enemy base from the 1-2 line, because, you know, like I said, you can go deal with the TDs here, or you can go deal with the TDs here. You want to make your decision based on what you think is going to win you the game or get you more win 8, depending on what you're going for. So if you're trying to get more win 8, go play the 9 line and do this sort of route, because there's always TDs camping back here. You need to kill them before you go try to flank these heavies, because, you know, TDs will just sit up here. Basically, they'll sit in this bush. So you need to get rid of these guys, and then you can go flank the heavies if that's what you're going to do, like if you're trying to farm for damage. So come up to this type of location, kill the TDs, and then generally it's very easy just to steal the TD's location and, you know, farm whichever heavies are left from here. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I normally play the way I did. It's like you go up to here, then you go up to here, then here, and then you make your way back and you get to this area, and then you can make an educated decision. So that's the gist of this map. We can go look at a map tactic. I'll talk about where people typically like to camp, and we'll go from there. Alrighty, so here are the basic positions that you'll find on this map. I'll leave a link to this picture down in the description, but so you can study it or whatever. But here you go. So typically on the 1 line, what you can expect is mobile tanks. So fast heavies, fast mediums, slow mediums, but you know, they're still faster than fast heavies, light tanks, that type of thing will go to C1. I've seen Foshes go here, but I mean, you know, the Fosh dies pretty quickly when they try to poke over the ridge at C1. So that's the typical thing that will go here. So you want to look at the enemy team lineup and say, okay, well, I expect fast heavies, light tanks, and mediums to go here. I expect our, you know, mediums and lights to go here, maybe a fast heavy or two, and then you just sort of gauge whether you're or not you're going to go to C1. Then what you can do, then what you'll typically find is like, this is a good sniping position. Most TDs will sit back here, and when you're clearing out this 1 line, like let's pretend you're on the north spawn, you're clearing out this area, I just put a TD and a clicker back here, because you should expect some guy, like, this isn't normally going to happen, but you need to expect that there's going to be some guy that you never expected to have never left the enemy base. So when you're pushing in from the northern spawn, just expect that there's going to be some guy that you know, he's making a terrible play, but this is the reality. You're playing pub games. People are going to make terrible plays. So expect there to be a TD here, expect there to be a TD here, and then expect there to be a ton of TDs as well as RD, basically all along the K line, because that's what happens on this map when you're pushing in from the 9 line or the 1-2 line from the north spawn. So that's just something to keep in mind. I've sometimes seen TDs here. I should have put that down on the map. I'll do that now. And that's the gist of like the northern spawn. These are all the areas where people camp, and it's something really important. When you're pushing down, you need to be prepared for there to be TDs here, TDs here, TDs here, here, you know, etc., etc. So this is typically where people will camp, and that's the gist of it. So what I found pushing from the southern spawn is that what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to push in like this. Obviously, you make the educated decision on whether or not you can go there. And then you push down something where you can get safely to this rock. Just make sure you have teammates supporting you. And from there, it's very easy just to sort of push into the enemy base. I'll typically do something like this. It's safer. Like, you have to play it safe, because there's going to be some guy in a Jagdpanzer 100 who's, you know, looking for his first shot of the game, and he's going to be sitting on this corner just waiting for the most aggressive player to push around, and he's going to hit you for 1,050. So what I will do is, if I'm worried about people on this corner and these bushes, I will push up like this. That lets you sort of safely get to these rocks, and that's a bit easier to deal with as opposed to trying to push, you know, all the way like so when there's camping TDs shooting at you. So that would be my advice for pushing into their base. Is take this route, kill these, clear this area, make sure there isn't a TD. You know, TDs will camp in their base, so will already. Then you also have to make sure that there's no one in A8. It's a pretty decent position. It's hard to fight people who are there, but you know, that would be my advice. You need to clear this out before you start pushing like so. Then you have to deal with people who are here, and typically TDs will snipe in these type of areas. So just prepare for that, because there's every single corner when you push into the enemy base is liable to have a TD sitting around it, because that's how TD players play. So there's that. When you're dealing with the 9-0, typically what will happen is just heavy tanks will go here. Sometimes you'll find E3s. Those are good substitutes for heavy tanks that will play on the 9-0. Super Pershings too, I guess, if you're going to be playing Pref 8s. And that's the gist. Like, heavies go to the 9 line, like the slow ones. And some bad players and fast heavies will go to the 9 line. Typically, it's the good players and fast heavies that will go to C1. So when you've managed to push all the way around like so, expect to be fighting, I don't know, average players, give or take. But you don't want to underestimate them, because a bad player in a Jagdpanzer E100 still hits you for 1,000, or same with an E3 or an E100. So you have to keep that in mind. So you'll be fighting these people. You can obviously play here to deal with that if you're trying to cap fast or whatever. You know, you can always go to here if you want to damage from the heavies who are over there. And that's the gist of it. I mean, the map is really simple when you're able to break it down into stages. I basically have a flowchart in my mind of what I try to do, and I think try to develop those for yourself. It's like, if you can't win C1, you run to here and you just make your last stand there from the northern spawn. If you can't win C1 from the south spawn, you run away from here to here to here, and typically you just play the tracks looking for shots in the TDs, and then from there it's a bit of guesswork and just sort of playing off of reactions. But that's the gist of this map. I hope it was helpful. Obviously, we're looking at it from a fast tanks perspective. I don't have much advice for slow tanks. I'm just not good in them. So I would look for someone else if you're trying to figure out how to play the 9 line, because I have no clue. But that's pretty much it. I hope this video was helpful. If you want to see more, be sure to hit the like and the subscribe button, and I hope to see you around. Later, guys. Bye-bye.